Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Moonlit Conversations with Hearts, Minds, and Families. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed. In today's episode, we're going to talk about parenting when you can't agree. I know that Seema posted on her Instagram about this. Shanila, I wanted to start with you because you posted a question yesterday, I think it was, that I thought was kind of relevant, and it was about difficulties. What was your question? It was something about difficulties with your spouse. Like, what do you find difficult about parenting with
Yeah, I
your
think
spouse?
Seema had that same question.
Oh,
And
okay.
I put it up, but then I put the answers too. So
Okay.
what was it? It was the hardest part of parenting with your spouse, the hardest part,
Yeah.
doing that. So there are some that were similar, basically the main one, which is parenting style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's address that one. So, like, what would you do, or what have you done if you just had a different parenting style than your spouse? Because I think that we've all kind of changed as we've been parents over the last over 10 years. We've kind of changed our parenting style. What do you do if you are starting to change your parenting style, or your way of thinking is a little bit different, and you want to kind of get your husband or your spouse, because it could be the opposite. You just want to get your spouse onto your side, but they're not really seeing that. Like, what kind of advice would you give? I mean, if we can give advice.
I think she's posing it to you, Shanila. So you go ahead and you answer first.
I think it happens. It's very common. It happened with me and my husband. So the first thing that I would really do, and I tell everybody to do it, is whenever you read something, convey that to your husband or to your spouse. Oh, guess what I heard today? Or just read or summarize or do something. Maybe a post that you can just take a screenshot of and send it to him. That I think makes a big difference. And the thing is that we have to implement it. We have to change. And sometimes what happens is that in that process, we want them to come alongside us. And they're not there yet. We're following all these parenting pages. They're not. So they're only getting their parenting information from us, or however they grew up with it. Yep. And so it's really hard to teach them when we're learning ourselves. So I think a lot of parents in the beginning, they'll say, oh, we should do this. And then they'll come back with a comeback, or they'll pose a question. And then maybe the moms, they get kind of stumped because they don't know the answers. But that's actually a really good thing, because then they can go find out. So I would go find out, and then I would come back and relay the information back to him. Or I would try something out, and then I'd say, you know what, I tried this out and it really worked.
Which I think is the really nice thing, like when you try something new and it actually works.
Yeah. Or you're trying something and they think it didn't work, but it wasn't supposed to. You're doing a different method. They're thinking, okay, well, they're still not listening. And the thing is, the point wasn't for them to listen. The point was for us to listen first. And that's really hard for them to understand, because it's such a different mindset. So sometimes I remember one time my husband got really upset, and I'm just like, okay, why are you upset? And he didn't know why he was frustrated. And then I said, well, you're an adult and you don't know why you're frustrated. How about kids? They get frustrated too, and they don't know, and they act it out in these ways because they're not mature enough. So things like that, where, he would be like, yeah, that makes sense.
So I already know your answer to this, Shanila, because we've talked about this before. Yeah. But just for anybody who's listening, what about when, like, somebody starts on a peaceful parenting journey or a respectful parenting journey, and then their spouse is like, that's just ridiculous, like, that's just stupid. And then they're constantly combating everything that they're trying to do because they believe that route is just not the right way to go. What do you say to people like that?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
So the thing is that it is so different. I mean, we have to first understand where our husbands are coming from. Okay, so let's say that happened to them. And so they had to really have a thick skin to get through that. They had to and maybe they have a really good relationship with their parents now, but it's a hard pill to swallow for them to realize that, hey, maybe everything that was done to me wasn't right.
Yeah.
And they would have to they would have to become more vulnerable to let that in and sink in. And that's really hard. So I take it a different approach. I take it as an approach like, if I did that to you, or if it was me, how would that feel? You know, if I talked in that manner to you, would you think it's disrespectful?
Right.
And then you would say, yeah. And it's like, well, kids, they're people too. They have feelings too. And that's one of the things that I remember growing up. It was very dismissive, our feelings. And it was almost as if we didn't have feelings.
Right.
And so the more I just talked about it, the more he would realize. And I think someone asked me that, my spouse doesn't believe in peaceful parenting. And I said, maybe not. But do you know what he does believe in? He believes in raising resilient kids.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like that response.
So you have the same goal, but it's just the way you get there is wrong. So if you say that, okay, well, when our kids become teens, I want them to be able to come to me. Do you? Yeah, of course I do. Okay, well, what do we do with our kids where they're going to come to us, where they're not going to hide things and go behind our back? And then looking at the different things that we do now and say, is that going to raise a kid who's going to be like, oh man, I messed up. Let me call mom. Right. Let me call dad. Or are they going to be like, oh man, I messed up. Don't tell my mom or dad. I'm going to lie to them. And I think that hits parents. Yeah. And it shows them that, okay, you know what? Maybe there's another way. And, my husband was that type. And so he really helped me. He was like the ideal person who I'm trying to change their mind, So I was like, what are we in it for? Are we in it just to raise these adults and it doesn't matter what our relationship with them? And he was like, yeah, sometimes they have to do certain things and it's okay if they don't like you or they don't have a good relationship with you. And I was like, but how about if you could have that?
Right.
But if you could, why do we have to wait till they're 40 and they look back to us and tell us, Dad, I'm so glad you did everything, whatever you did. I turned out to be an amazing person because of you. And I'm glad you hit me and stuff, Do we have to wait until like we're 60 for them to, appreciate us? Why can't they appreciate us throughout our life? And we don't even know if we're going to live till 60.
Right. You don't even know if you're going to live till tomorrow. How are you leaving them at the end of every day? Yeah. What other responses did you get to those that you can remember?
I think my husband not following my lead. Them doing something totally different than what I'm doing. So if I have a rule set, them coming in and messing it up.
Right. Like feeling like you're being undermined.
Yeah. And also the last one, which is important, a lot of people had is that, well, my husband just doesn't have enough time to devote to, learning about this.
I got a lot of that too. My husband doesn't have enough time. He doesn't have enough patience. Some people just felt like parenting fell all on them. They felt like a single parent or, there's just the breakup of responsibility they didn't feel like was fair. When it came to the kids, I think when it comes in some of the cases here, it's like just the household in general because they're working. So I guess what do we say to that? Like
I think that this kind of comes back to that conversation we were having last night on WhatsApp. Last night or the night before, there's a video, viewers. There's a video where somebody was talking about, these two guys are talking about that women or wives, I would say, don't want to have the burden of having to tell their spouse, I want this and this and this and this done. They would rather have a spouse that will handle it. They would just go, they'll see that this needs to be done and they'll want to handle it. And we ended up having an interesting conversation because a few of us agreed with that. And then some of us didn't because we want to be the manager of the house, right, for example. And I sent it to my husband to find out what he thought about it. And he's like, I would prefer if you just told me what you wanted me to do. And I'm like, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to tell you like, I need this and this. And like, I want you to see like, oh man, she must have had a busy day. The dishes didn't get done. She usually does the dishes. Let me pack the dishwasher. Let me turn it on. And what do you have to say, Aram?
Yeah, I mean, men don't function usually like
I know.
that. It's not that they're less intelligent. It's the empathy thing that we as women, as mothers, especially when we become caretakers, are blessed more with. It's If I say it's a woman's job, it will become a very it's not fair to say that. It can be said that it's a woman's blessing, and when that blessing is stretched and not shared, it feels as a curse. But it is definitely something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with more, that empathy thing. Because when we are caretakers, we are really the caretakers. We take care even of the people that we don't like.
Right.
Do we agree with this?
Yeah.
We take care of the people we like, and we take care of the people we don't like, which means we are registering everything that's happening. Men are caretakers too, but they are a different kind of caretakers. They do not get into the nitty gritty of things. They do not get into face expressions. They do not get into the huffs and puffs. They do not get into the dishes are getting high and high and high in the sink. That's completely okay. She'll do it one day. One day
Right. We'll use paper dishes. It's fine.
Yes. All the dishes are done. They're in the sink. They're dirty. Paper dishes
Paper
come
dishes. That's it.
In their head, they're problem solvers.
Right.
So this is the solution to the problem. So I think do we really? I did not go through that conversation. I'm so sorry, but this is
No, that's
good,
okay. I was going to ask what your thoughts were on that now.
But I didn't go through now that Miriam has mentioned, because I kept looking at it and I was like, I shall go look at it, but I did not get the time. So is it like that the women want the men to automatically take care?
No. Okay. So the video is 2 men, and I liked it because the way it was presented made it really easy to understand. And basically it's like, people say that it should be 50-50, right? But if the man is having to be told what to do, he's like, that's not 50-50. That's, like that puts a lot of burden on the woman to say, please do this and please do this, because that's so much more to have to handle and think about. And like in the video, it calls it being a project manager. So you are saying, okay, do this and make sure this is done at this time. And
sorry, and I don't think husbands take that lightly. Do they take it easily?
That ends up being a lot of times like what happens, like you have to say like, oh, can you please do the dishes? Like, even if you're not, demanding, you're just saying, hey, can you please do this? And can you do this? And like giving them a list, like a task list of things to accomplish. And then at the end of the day, like, hey, did you accomplish that? Like that's also a burden. That's also a stress that makes the work not 50-50. So, and I also, I saw another video that was talking about something similar, and I had it a minute ago and now it's escaping me. What was I going to say about that? Ugh, sorry.
That's okay. Come back to it.
I'll try to think about it again.
I think it's interesting. And that just goes to the communication thing. Like, you have to communicate with your spouse. What are they expecting of you? Because I know that I don't like to be the project manager. I know, because like, I feel like I have this mental checklist of things that needs to get done. And if I have to delegate that, then the thing is still on my list. It's still on my list until I know that somebody else has completed this task. If I tell the kids, okay, it's your turn to clean the dining room, I know that I'm going to still have to go back and do that. But first I need to make sure that they have done it, so that I give them, the opportunity to like do something for the house, and then I'll just go back and like do the real cleaning, after they're done. But it still ends up being on my list. But my husband, he's like, no, I just like, I'm not home for that long, and I don't have that much time to dedicate to the house because I'm out. So like, tell me what it is that you need done so that I can do it and I can move on with my day.
The reason that's hard for me is because it's quicker to just do it. It's quicker to just get it done than to say, can you please do this? And can you please do that? Because I don't know. It's in my head already. So I'll just go from one task to another task without even thinking about it. But the video came back to me. Yeah. So there was another video that I saw that, and I don't know again if it's true or not. It's just another TikTok video, but they were saying that women have evolved to cry more easily because, like Erin was saying, men don't pick up on subtle cues. So over time, we have resorted to being more emotional and crying so much more easily in order to send more specific cues to the men for them to pick up on. Because then they're like, okay, they don't pay attention to facial expressions and whatever. But when you're crying, it's like, oh my God, what just happened? Like suddenly there's something major that I have to address. So it's like, that was an interesting thing to hear. Again, I don't even know if it's true or not, but I was like, oh, if that is true, that would make sense.
I wonder too. I guess we'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I wonder also if women are specifically doing it to get their spouse's attention, then isn't that like a form of manipulation?
I don't think that it's specifically to that. They're saying it's evolved to, I don't know if it means like it's the frustration that builds up and then that's just how it's expressed. It's not a way of manipulating them. It's just
subconscious kind of.
It's a subconscious thing. It's just like we tend to, like, our emotions are so much more vivid in order to get the message across for them to receive it. Because when it's subtle, they just don't receive it. So over time and over many hundreds of years, we have just evolved to be so much more full of expression and animated in order to get the message across.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the way I responded to that, Aram, was that I like to be I was a project manager before, but and I want that responsibility. So what I did was we sat down and I said that, okay, we have to get all this stuff done in the house. I can't do it all. And so we decided, I'm like, okay, well, can you do this? What can you do? And then we made it just like a thing. We're like, okay, let's divide up the chores after dinner. And then he said that, okay, I'll do the dishes from now on. And each of the kids help clean up. And so after dinner, I leave the kitchen and I don't ever go back. And I never tell him, okay, don't forget to do dishes, because he never forgets. That's part of the thing that he has to do. So it isn't continuously asking, oh, can you go back? And I don't go back into the kitchen until if I have to, put something in there, or I go back in the morning, because I'm done being in the kitchen. and so whether it gets done, whatever the cleanup is, my husband handles it when he's here.
And again, that goes back to like clearly communicating, right? Exactly what it is that you need. Because I had mentioned too in the group, I was like, we've come to a point now, just in the last couple of years, I've been a lot more open about my anxiety and like the pressures that I feel just internally, because I'm so easily pressured, so now, like on the weekends, because Samir works long hours, he's gone way before we wake up and he doesn't come home until the kids are going to bed. So he really is barely ever home Monday through Friday. So on Saturdays, he'll usually sleep in, but then before he comes down, he will stop at the laundry room, put the laundry away, he'll make the bed. And then usually at some point on the weekend, he'll catch up on dishes and clean the kitchen. And like he knows now what I need, but it took, so many years of me just getting it done or getting frustrated or feeling resentful to finally be like, this is what's happening. Can you just do it? Can you just see what needs to be done and do it? And then he said, well, like what kinds of things do you want me to do? And then he started to do them. But also it took me taking a step back, because he's not going to do it exactly the way that I do it. It's not going to be the same. He doesn't even know exactly where things go all the time, because sometimes I move them around. And then, there's a lot of different things that go into it of just, I'm grateful that he's taking the initiative to get it done and do it, even if it's not exactly the way I want it done or how, I have to let that go. So that balance of communicating what I need, but also easing up on my expectations of him and all of that has really made it a better partnership when it comes to taking care of the house. But there's that communication piece of how to get it across without being mean and getting control of that resentment. If you feel resentful about it, then that's going to come across in your communication. So that has to be addressed first.
Right. And that kind of goes, what you said kind of goes to when you said earlier that it's easier for you to get it done. But is it really easier for you to get it done? Or is it more challenging to have to communicate specifically what you want done, that it's easier to do the task that every single day or every week or whatever than it is to communicate and then let go of the expectation that you had that it's going to get done exactly how you were going to do it?
Right. That's exactly what it is. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
want to have the conversation. And and he's always open to it. It's not like he's
Right.
like, oh, I don't want to do it, but
Yeah.
it's just like there's follow-up questions and I don't want to deal with the follow-up questions.
Right.
There's more to the conversation other than just, can you do this, please? And then he goes to do it. It's not pushback, but it's just a much longer conversation than I want to have. And then
Right.
but now we've gotten to the point where we don't have to have those conversations. And I don't have to be like, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just expected. And it's not like it's rude to him, even that I'm not thanking him. He had gotten to a point to where when I was saying thank you, he's like, you don't have to do that. He's like, you don't have to, he's like, I'm just doing the dishes. I had breakfast, so, it's nice to get to that point where it's just getting done and everybody knows that it's because they value a clean house.
Yeah.
You're muted, Shanila.
I never told my husband thank you for doing dishes. Maybe I should.
I am overly apologetic and overly thankful
yeah.
when people are doing things. That's something I'm working on. Even with the kids, I'm constantly, oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, sorry. So I'm having to take care of that.
Erin, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I feel that when the kids are much older, and I think the dynamics change of how things are done, because especially with homeschooling, children take care of a lot of things. And then I think the relationship between the husband and wife and taking care of the things also changes. Everything that Seema, you were saying, it was once upon a time for me. Now it's been many years now, like children are getting older, so it became much more easier. I mean, they became my free cheap labor, so alhamdulillah. So it's been so good having them home. But in terms of today my dynamic with my husband is very, very different. So I can relate with what you're saying, and and I have a totally different story set that's happening right now, like where he takes care, he does more housework sometimes than I do. And sometimes I'm like amazed, like, oh, wow, I was going to live to see this too. Wow.
Same here. So my husband, lately, alhamdulillah, he'll wake up early, go to the masjid for Fajr, and then from there, like, do walking or whatever he wants to do, and then come home. By then the kids are awake, and then he makes them breakfast. And then I'm sitting there, like, just getting up, like, okay, so a couple days a week he'll do that, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Samir will usually do breakfast on Sundays also, because like I'm just lazy. So like he'll still sleep in, he'll come down, I mean like around 10 o'clock, and we're just like snacking, or I give him a cup of like a smoothie or something, and then he'll come down and he'll make like eggs and everything. And again, without asking, it's not like I'm like, oh, can you please make breakfast? I've never at any point, he'll just be like, hey, what do you guys want to eat? And then everybody will just say it, because it's just taking that initiative. And it is so wonderful. Like I'm just sitting on the couch, browsing on my phone, reading a book, whatever I'm doing, and he's just getting in there and getting it done. And it's nice.
But Mariam, you said earlier that, sometimes they don't know. They don't, like, I think Aram, you said that too. Like maybe they just don't know. Like, I think a lot of people, they wanted their spouse, their husbands to kind of just know to do certain things and not be told. And it's probably, a lot of it is a personality thing too, because I'm like that. I'm totally like that, where my husband will be like, well, you should just do it. You should just know. And I'm just like, I don't know. So just tell me. I'm like, just tell me. I don't want to guess. I'm not going to read between the lines, and I'm not going to take hints. I'm so bad at taking hints. Just tell me what to do, or what you like, what you want, or what you like, so then I can do that.
That's really true, because you know what, one of the things that drew me to my husband is that he's very direct about things, and my family's not direct at all. Like, for example, my stepfather bought my son a guitar, and I was like, okay, whatever. So since he got my son the guitar, all he ever talks to my son about is the guitar. And now my son, he doesn't want to talk to his grandfather anymore. He says, like, if my stepfather comes on the phone while he's talking to my mom, then he'll be like, oh yeah, hi grandpa. And then I noticed that. And so I was like, what's going on? You don't seem like you want to talk to grandpa anymore. And he's like, yeah, well, ever since grandpa gave me the guitar, he always asks like, oh, have you been playing the guitar? This about the guitar, this about the guitar. It's never about me. How am I doing? What am I doing? What did I do today? And so I said, okay, well, do you want to talk to grandpa about it? Do you want me to talk to grandpa about it? Do you want me to talk to grandma and she can talk to grandpa? And he was like, okay, well, why don't we talk to grandma about it? And so then he talked to my mom, and my whole family is very beat around the bush. So she's like, oh, well, that's kind of how grandpa is and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, we're hoping you can talk to grandpa about it. And she's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I can do that. And one thing I loved about my husband is that like he's very direct, and I have to like remember that like I can't keep beating around the bush for the things that I want or expect him to do, because that's not his personality. That's not how he is. He likes to be direct, and he likes people to be direct with him, and I just need to get over it.
And then, I mean, also, we can't deny the fact that it's culture, right? It's culture. Boys are just not expected to do those things like in the house when they're growing up. So then they're suddenly adults and they're like, all right, cool. Now I'm married. Now you handle it.
Right. And they're trying, because like they know that that's not Islam, and they know they're trying to do the household things and be a good father, but you're right. They often have
generally in the culture, I feel like so many families deal with that aspect of it, of boys, one, weren't practicing as they were growing up because they weren't expected to do it. And then two, a lot of the toxic culture is your wife will do this for you. That's actually being said to them. And that expectation is being made for them of, you're going to get married and your wife will do all these things. And so I feel like that's changing a little bit more now, but it's still very present.
Yeah.
My daughters, they tell my son, Bhai, learn this because your wife is going to hate you. We're not able to understand this. Bhai, you should know this. Bhai, and my son says, like, my wife is going to be perfect. And then the youngest one, she's like, oh, we'll see how perfect she's going to be when you don't do the work that she wants you to do. It's a funny conversation. But yes, our generation, we were taught. I did not have brothers, but of course, I hear this from my sister-in-laws that they were taught that iron your brother's clothes, put the plate for your brother, warm his food, do all of his stuff because he's your brother. So the brothers were never trained to do anything because the sisters were there to serve. And then the brothers grew up thinking, if my sister is doing it for me, then my wife is also going to do it for me. Now the sisters are not like that. The sisters are exactly like I said.
Yeah.
Because your wife is going to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. So I think we derailed from our main question.
I was
this is good too, I guess.
Oh, it kind of goes with the expectations, like
for sure.
Yeah. We're not too far off.
I'm just gonna read another answer. Someone said he goes against everything I say. We're not on the same page, and he just wants to spoil them and give them everything. But we've kind of touched on that. Someone else said his mom. The hardest part of parenting with my spouse is his mom, and that's an important one too because of
the entire subcontinent.
Right.
The entire subcontinent. That like take the whole entire Asia. Even if you would be talking to somebody in China, they will also have the same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, just family in general, whether it be the mom or, or even let's broaden that to outside expectations and other people inserting their expectations and their opinions into your parenting.
Right.
Constantly. And that's what we were talking about last week too, is offering advice and opinions when they just should not be offered. They should just not be around because it causes stress. And then two, like you said, Shanila, when one person is learning and the other person isn't, then we're getting the information firsthand. It's coming from usually credible sources and we're able to really understand it at different levels. But then if our partner is not learning and then they're hearing what we have to say, we are equally as credible as, say, their mom or their sister or their cousin or whoever. So it starts to make them second guess what it is that you're telling them.
And I think we really need to go to therapy. We just do, and it's just even, it's harder, I feel like, for men sometimes, because it's, for us, we can be vulnerable, we can cry, we can talk about our feelings. And growing up, they couldn't talk about their feelings. They had to suppress their feelings. So they don't know how to express it. And if we're talking about something like, let's say they went through trauma when they were in their childhood, I mean, that's not something you just want to let out, because
Yeah.
we don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
I think about crying and about, so boys are very receptive to their mothers. We agree on this? I mean, if we have boys, I mean, they are emotionally receptive to their mothers. It is very strange that the same boy who's very receptive to his mother, when becomes a man, is not equally emotionally receptive to the wife. Where is the break? In my research theory, which I have done no PhD upon, but because I can speak here, I think as children we do not come from the culture, or we're not confident enough, or out of adab, or out of love, or out of whatever, we want to see our parents as heroes regardless, even when we are seeing that clearly they are doing something that is not intelligent enough, or emotionally it's basically blackmailing. We are susceptible to their emotional blackmail. So this is like, if I'm a man, so if I was susceptible to my mother's emotional blackmail, I know in my heart I hate it, but I do it out of love for my mother. But as soon as, even if my wife is not doing it, even if it's not in her mind, even if it's not in her wildest dreams, but I see just a hint, a dash of emotion coming from her, I just like trigger like anything. It's like wildfire of emotions. And that is a block of communication between the wife and the husband. And that is why for 10 years, for 15 years, the women keep saying, my husband doesn't hear me. And do you know what the husband at that point is saying? And this is from experience that I'm telling this. Oh, you women, you're just drama queens. You women are just, you just want to cry. Okay, cry your heart out. It's not going to affect me. And they say this, and it even becomes more hurtful for the wives, because it's like, do I not matter to you? What is wrong with me telling you that this is my need, fulfill my need? It is that man, that poor boy, in his mind, in his heart, in his body, is now so scared because he is tired. He is tired of filling his mother's emotional the whole journey, that he just cannot handle the burden from coming from the wife, even before the wife even starts giving him the burden. So who is here to blame? The aql says the mother is to blame, but the mother had a husband who was not listening. Who was to blame? So who came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
It's exactly like that. And I sincerely feel, like Shanila said, coaching, but then again, that comes with acknowledgement and with knowledge and with the surrounding that you are in. If you're all in the same kind of surrounding, and all are talking the same stuff, it's not going to occur. It's
Right.
not
It's just an echo chamber at that point.
Yeah.
exactly.
Because we live in a lot of the subcontinent, you should say, is they're people pleasers. So it's so hard to parent when you're a people pleaser.
So hard.
And everybody's not going to be happy with you. Something's got to give. Someone gets the short at the end of the stick, and it's the ones who are hopeless or helpless, and they're the kids. So
Yeah.
So it's really hard, and we have to break the cycle somewhere. And we are cycle breakers, and it's hard. It's not easy. And it takes a lot.
And you know what? And to give our husbands credit, like, I feel like they want to be cycle breakers, but I think that it's an uphill battle, because we as female Muslims were brought up with this expectation that we're going to be a caregiver. We're going to have to take care of a family. We're going to have to take care of a spouse. And the males were brought up with the expectation of, you're going to have to work. It was never really an expectation of, you're going to have to be a good dad. You're going to have to be a good husband.
Yeah.
these are some of the things that you have to learn how to do to be a good dad and to be a good husband. It was just, this is, you have to work. That's it. When you work, you will support the family. Because I mean, that's what the dads said from, you know, our parents' generation, is like, I worked. I was a good dad. I worked, and I provided for my family. I gave you guys shelter. I gave you guys food. But the expectation now, because we want more, because we see the relationships that we have with our parents, we want more. But I feel like it's an uphill battle for the males, because I mean, not to like coddle them or anything, but it kind of is like they didn't have that intrinsic motivation that, like, I need to do this. I need to have empathy so that I can listen to my wife. I need to be patient so that I can be, you know, patient with my kids. You know, I need to master these skills or whatever.
Something that my mom said that I always remember is that, you know what? She said, I didn't have the tools. We didn't have classes. We didn't have books. We didn't have all this stuff, but you do. So it's your responsibility. You know, they're going to be, you know, I think our parents, they were in survival mode in a different way.
Yeah.
They were trying to provide the basics, and they did now. And now we're in a place of privilege.
Yes.
And so we have a higher responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
All these parents, they should all have taken a parenting class. The dads.
Right, and that's the crime of this all, is that you have the tools. The tools are available. The information is out there. To just continue to do what was done because it was done to you is not acceptable. It's not enough. You have to learn, you have to educate yourself, you have to want better for it to be a cycle breaker, to know that there's more to be done, because in the previous generations, it really was a bare minimum on both sides. Men go to work, women care for the house. There was really nothing spoken of. And the women had the one more of also be a good wife. But beyond that, men is just work, because that's being a good husband and that's being a good person. But the kids really were kind of just lost in the equation. It's keep them alive and then send them on their way. Right. So there is a lot more pressure on both sides, for men and for women, but we have so much available to us. I mean, all the different platforms. I mean, we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have now Clubhouse, we have, I mean, you just don't even have to do anything. If you Google it one time, the information will come to you. Like, it's just, it'll be never ending.
And it's the case with everything. And even in our Dean, the stuff that we have access to, a long, long time ago, somebody traveled riding on their camel for 3 months to get that hadith. And we have it in the click of our, tab or something,
And not even to look back so far, like a generation before, like they had to look through. Bukhari was like this stack of books. You had to look through to find what you were looking for. Is there something that talks about this? Let me look through all of these volumes of books to find. Yeah.
So we're going to be questioned about that. We're going to be asked about that, and it's not the result, but it's the outcome of our kids. It's really our effort.
Yes.
That matters to us. What we're going to be asked about is our efforts. Yeah. And I understand that some parents, they're really busy, but then it comes back to priorities. You may be really, really busy, but you have time to watch this one game. You have time for basketball games. You have time for the 3-hour football games.
Right.
Yeah.
You have time for Facebook and catching up with friends. So it's really about priorities. If you want to do something, you'll make time for that. Even no matter how busy you are, if you want to watch that soccer game, you're going to make time for it because it's a priority. So it's really self-management and priorities.
Yes.
And it's easy to just be like, well, I'm so busy, I don't have time.
Yeah.
So when it comes to this topic of parenting when you're not on the same page, I think it really just comes down to really talking to each other. So there's a communication, but in this communication, what has to be done is decide on what your goals are for your family, both of you, because like Shanila said, essentially, most likely your goals are going to be the same. So if you just have different ideas on how to get there, it's just figure out how to find the right resources, right? Like just getting to the right resources and finding a way to get through to the other partner that we want the same things. We want the same things. So what are we going to do together to get there? And that's what has to be communicated.
The right mindset.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I think this topic though of like children, they don't I think dads may not realize it, but they think, oh, it's my wife will do that. All the disciplining, my wife will do that. But they don't realize that they have a part in that too. For example, if they don't know about stocks, if they don't know about investing, they're going to go find out. So they can find out about parenting too. But
it's the interest
yeah.
and mindset and the timing of it, the need of it. We are need-driven creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We don't move in the direction that we're supposed to move in unless we're poked and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends us a test, and then we're like, oh my God. Why is it that we have so many teen issues?
Mm-hmm.
The teenager is not bad. It was happening since birth.
Mm-hmm.
I just did not see it because I did not want to see it, and now I can't handle it. I can't handle it anymore. It's basically now I'm in the fire. So now I'm going to say, oh my God, something bad has happened.
And partly it's like, don't wait until it's too late. And the people who are in it right now who have young kids, they don't see it because, it's easy to manipulate little kids. But when they become a teenager or they're bigger than you in size, then if you say you don't do this, then you have to leave the house. They'll be like, okay, I am going to leave.
Right.
And they're like, I can't wait to leave.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
It's just, that's what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and it's like, I lost my train of thought. This keeps happening to me. So forget it. Just move on.
So far now we have identified that. Why is it difficult? Where is the break? What needs to be done? Any other questions? Mashallah, we've given solutions. People just start working on these solutions.
I think they have to know, like, one thing that really helped me was that when I was reading books on the importance of fathers in the lives of kids, it's huge. I mean, there was, I think, in Leonard Sachs' book, one statistic that he had was that if a young girl is hugged or physically, like affectionate, she has an affectionate father, that's one of the determining factors that her period comes later. You believe that?
That's crazy. I've not heard that. If
he doesn't get that emotional connection from the biological dad.
My goodness.
That when some studies show that she's going to get her period earlier. I mean, just that even.
Bodies are just amazing.
Yeah, we don't realize those things. So I told my husband, I'm like, you know what? If she gets her period early,
it's on you.
It's on you. And I'm going to be on. So they actually, what I realized is that, you know what? I went to my husband, I'm like, you know what? You fathers play a humongous role, especially in the lives of their daughters. And I said that.
I think that's interesting because a lot of, or a good amount of fathers will think like, I'm out of the house a lot and I'm not with them that much. So let the wife do whatever you want to do, just do whatever. And I'm going to do my own thing. And they don't realize the little things that they do that is, like undermining kind of you're telling your kid as the mom, as the one that's at home with them, you're telling them like, we want to have open communication, we want to be peaceful, we want to do this, we want to do that, let's do this so that we can have harmony in our home, blah blah blah. And then the husband comes home and maybe he's home for an hour before he has to go to sleep because he wakes up early to go to work, and he's home for an hour, and during that time he's just very negative with them, and he doesn't think that time is important, but it is. Just like Shanila was saying, like in that time he could be giving all the hugs and kisses so she doesn't get her period early,
If anything, it's more impactful because they have this much time to make a difference. So we have that arrangement at home where if he knows that he's had a particularly hard day at work and he really just doesn't have the patience to get through bedtime, because like I said, he's gone all day, he gets home just in time for bedtime. So he does bedtime, he takes them upstairs, he helps them all, get in their pajamas and showers and all of that stuff and reads them stories until they get to bed. And every once in a while, he's just not down for that. Because, you know, bedtime, they're trying to get away with things. Showers take extra long. They're chasing after each other. They're screaming and giggling and all kinds of things that are, you know, not supposed to be happening at bedtime. And usually that's fine. He gets silly with them and he gets them to bed. Other times it's not. So he'll have to tag me in. I don't like bedtime either. At that time, I'm done. I'm checked out for the day. Like I'm done. After dinner time, it's like, okay, I need time to think. So, but because I know that I want for his interaction to be positive. If he really is at his limit, I'll tag in, because that's just what we have to do sometimes. And I know that if I'm having a really hard day, if he can do anything he can do to get home early that day from work, he will do that. We have to be able to rely on each other for those moments. If we want our time with our kids to be impactful, we have to be able to rely on each other and say, okay, I know that I have no more patience left. Do you have enough patience to take over? And usually you can muster it up. If you know that you're needed, you can kind of bring it up out of you and be like, okay, I'm in, you know, and go for it. So I was going to say that it's much more impactful, but also something that I tell a lot of clients when I'm coaching is when they're like, we don't have time to stop and we don't have time to talk to them and talk them through their feelings. And I'm always like, you don't have time not to do that, because your kids require a certain amount of time. There's a certain amount of time that you need to allot to your children, and you can give it to them now or you can give it to them later. But if you give it to them now, it's on your terms. You're able to kind of control the situation. You're able to do it peacefully, and you're able to mold the relationship when they're little. When they're older, they're going to demand that time, and it's going to be in a much more negative way. So you can either give it to them now or you can give it to them later, but you know, you have to make the time because they're going to take it one way or another. It's not just going to disappear. It's not like you can just avoid it and it'll go away. You're going to have to deal with it at some point. So you might as well do it now.
And it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, you know, something that you just don't see. You see the result of that.
100%.
I was going to say that, you know, sometimes parents with busy dads who come home later, one thing that a lot of moms do, and I saw this growing up too, the minute the dad walks in, it's kind of like, okay, he just gets this garbage landed on him, you know, like, here, this didn't happen, this person's doing that. It's like, okay, well, I might as well just leave now, you know, like, I don't want to be here.
That
So,
I'm scared of going home. I don't
Yeah.
want to go home.
Yeah.
Later on, when there's this midlife crisis happening or anything, the number one thing that men say is, I just don't like going home.
Yeah, why would they? I wouldn't either if I came home to that. Somebody screaming, yelling, you know, so if that happens where they only have an hour or half an hour, then it's nice if you could set it up where, okay, the kids are, you know, where you have a routine or something like that, where they have positive interaction, like Seema said. That positive interaction, if you set them up, then I think dads are going to want to come home, and they're going to want to spend more time with them. Make it so they want to spend more time with the kids than you, not less.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely true.
I mean, because there's also the whole aspect of parents sometimes being like, or moms mostly like, wait till your dad gets home. Wait till your dad gets home.
Yeah.
Wait till your dad gets home. Wait, I'm going to tell your dad about this. They use their father as punishment. So then there's that negative association, and they don't even realize that that's happening. You are making your children hate their father by doing that, because you're saying, I'm not going to do this, but your father is going to beat you, or your father is going to yell at you, or your father is going to handle this when he gets home. And then your husband doesn't want to come home because he doesn't want to take care of the situation. And the kids don't want dad to come home because dad's going to yell at them when he gets home. So you are literally breaking that relationship down by doing that.
That's a really good one. Yeah. Were there any other things that you got in your Instagram?
I got a few. They were all kind of related.
Okay.
We have some comments on YouTube though.
Ooh, yeah.
What are the resources to start with? Where are some things? Shanila, I know you have taken so many classes, and Aram, you've read so many books recently. Do you guys have recommendations specifically for husbands that you can think of off the top of your head?
My question is, will the husband read the book?
Yeah.
Just give it out. Who knows?
Well, you know, Aram and her husband, they do coaching for other couples. So I think
she said also, I find that men listen better to other men. So do we know any men in the field?
Yeah. So there's Aram, her husband. She's trained him personally herself.
Yes. He has the certification under Ira bin Safiya, mashallah, tabarakallah.
Yeah. And,
Doubling also as her team, right? Her social team.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. Involved Fathers is very good. I don't know if you all have come across it. He's from UK. He's very good.
It's called Involved Fathers?
Involved Fathers.
Yeah, I have not heard that. Okay.
It's really good. Look them up. There, he's in UK, and Noor Chaudhry. He's really good. I know Shanina knows a few as well. And we're doing a fathers conference in the end of March, so we have a good stream of men who, mashallah, tabarakallah, are good fathers, and their dawah is towards men as fathers, as role models. So yeah. Shanina, please.
Muslim Dad Life, I think. Muslim Dad Life on Instagram.
Okay.
So he majored in like family studies or something.
Mm.
He's a parent mentor as well.
I just realized I'm responding on YouTube from my kids' YouTube account. That's okay. The responses are coming from the Khan pups.
Umar Warsi, Muslim Dad Life, Umar Warsi.
Yes.
Mashallah, I'm following him. But I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, if we think of any other ones, I can just add it to the description box. For
Yeah,
this.
inshallah.
She's okay.
There are many, mashallah. It's not coming to mind right now.
Yeah.
But
And sometimes if it's both, because when I do one-on-one coaching, it's both husband and wife. And I think it depends on who it is. So like the husbands that I see, they feel really comfortable because I'm not just taking the mom's side. So that makes a difference if they feel validated. So I really think it depends on who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think majorly when the husbands are coming with the wives for coaching, they are already, they're already in the right headspace. Like,
Yeah.
make a difference. It's for those who are like, no, I'm not going to listen to whatever garbage you listen to. That's not that. The problem is there. I'm
The book is really good.
Sorry.
The book, what is it? Positive Parenting and an Essential Guide. That book is good. I know a couple people who, like, the wife is summarizing or reading it with her husband, and he, it's really well written and it's simple.
It is.
And the husbands like it.
Yeah, and that's really good. I have one of the books here, but again, it's like I don't know who reads, but this one, although this needs to be updated, the parent-child relationship, it's by a Muslim author.
You just whip that right out. Where did that come from?
I have. Okay, I can't. But okay, maybe I should. The books are here.
Impressive.
And there are books everywhere. So, khalas. So yes. Parenting business. It's our coaching is our business. We need reference like doctors.
Yeah.
We need to check the reference when we're doing it. But this is by Hisham al-Talib and Abdul Hamid al-Sulaiman and Umar Talib, basically. So it's a very good book, mashallah. It's a very, very good book, and this is basically geared towards American Muslims, because they're like first generation Muslims who raised the first generation, second generation children here. Although I think it needs an update, like Boys Adrift became Boys Adrift is a very good book for mothers to help their sons, as well as it gives a good idea. And Shanila, Seema said this one, so this one is your parents. This one is good, mashallah. So yeah, there are a lot of books, and then there are a lot of podcasts as well. If you want to listen to podcasts,
there are a lot of podcasts. I link pretty much the same few, so I'd love to hear your guys' ideas on podcasts also. So maybe link those, because I'm curious to see which ones you guys really enjoy. Really quickly before we wrap up, she also asked, she's like, why do you think there are so few men in this field?
Women don't allow them in this field. That's the only answer. Women have taken over. They're like, we know, you don't know, go.
I think it has to do with the upbringing. Like, men were not expected to care about this stuff, really, to be honest. Like, this is not something that they even had on their radar. I feel like very few men are in our generation even even cared about this really. I
You
mean,
were
like
not
when we were
allowed.
little, like if the boys played with dolls or were like doing anything fatherly, it was like frowned upon. So I don't think that it was in there.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying. They were not allowed.
Yeah.
And only those men were able to break through who went against the grain.
Yeah.
It's exactly like, it's a male dominant industry and a woman enters into that industry
Mm.
because she had the passion for it. That's the same reason why there are a few men who are seen on this platform as parent coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are a lot more good fathers in this world,
Of
alhamdulillah for
course.
that.
Yeah.
But as coaches there are less. And then again, in the field of psychology and in the field of psychiatry, then men and women are both equal. So a lot of fathers are in that field as well. So I think
I was going to say that too. I find even when fathers are involved in like the parenting realm, when it comes to books or podcasts, usually it comes from the scientific aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And then women are coming from a balanced scientific, emotional perspective. So I do think that, but again, like we're seeing more of the stay at home father. We're kind of seeing trends change a little bit for the better. So I think that that'll change soon too. I think we're going to see more men coming out in this field.
I know it's time for wrap up, but I was going to say this earlier too. I'm surprised that nobody said that, or maybe they did say we did cover this, that I'm given the whole burden of parenting the children,
Yeah.
but then I'm stopped in tracks because they don't like something or they object to the kind of parenting, and there's no balance. One day this is okay and the other day this is not okay. How to deal with that? Because a lot of women talk about this, like, oh, you should do this with the children, and then when I start doing this, then they're like, no, you should do that with the children. So they're not directly involved with the children, but they keep pulling and pushing the mother to keep changing her tracks. And there's where that the confused and frustrated woman, mother, wife arises from. That you don't give me my whole total freedom, you don't trust me with the decisions, you are basically not directly talking to the children, you are going through me. The children never see their dad object to anything. So the dad is the good guy and the mom is the bad cop, right? And the mom, she starts saying this when she gets frustrated and the children start getting older. She's like, your dad said to me this, and then the children say, we never heard dad say anything. This is you making up stories.
Yeah, no, I didn't get anything along those lines. We kind of got them split up a little bit. Some people said, the burden falls on me. Other people said he's undermining me. But it hasn't come together in that way. But that's a good point, because I feel like that's a common problem.
What would you say to somebody that presented this problem?
Go to a coach, hire a coach. You spend his money on a psychologist, psychiatrist, teacher. I don't know, do something.
Yeah, there's like a lack of communication, and the expectations are not the same.
And there's also, I think, an element of a lack of respect, right? There has to be. There's a lack of respect. If you're coming home and in either way, if you are undermining each other, there's a lack of respect and lack of trust in your opinion, clearly, of how you're running things. So that has to be addressed. There's a deeper
whether
issue.
you know it or not, you are.
And a fear. You see, there's fear too.
That's a big one too. Yeah.
The fear that she is doing better than I am. The fear that she's going to discover that she is confident and able enough to take care of the children. So what I'm trying to say is, there's a thin line between a healthy mindset of raising your children and a overpowering, manipulative mindset of doing it. So maybe this can be a totally different sort of session.
That kind of goes into like the toxic part of it.
All right, any final thoughts before we head off?
I wrote down just some notes about what tips I guess we've come up with. Patience with your spouse as they're learning. Remember that you're on a different journey than they are. So just because you started, you might be going in the same direction, but you're you started yours earlier because you started reading or following Instagram pages or wherever your journey started. Remember that you're still in the same journey, but you're in different parts of the journey, and you want to make sure that you're bringing them along and that you are patient with them. And that goes to what Seema was saying about being willing to tag in if you are seeing that your spouse is not handling a situation the way that you think they would want to handle it, not the way that you want to handle it, the way that you think that they would want to handle it, then you can tag in and say, hey, why don't I handle this, or somehow, kind of shift it so that they can go have a breather and you can handle the situation.
Really quick, just on that
Yeah.
too. We recently came up with like a little code, if you will, to if I see that he's getting really frustrated with something and he's about to respond or he started to respond, I'll like put my hand on his shoulder and immediately he'll just stop talking and he'll let me take over. So the kids don't notice, they don't say anything. It's not obvious to the children, but it's like, I can see where this is going. You know what I mean? And it's, again, done respectfully to him. Like it's something we talked about beforehand. So it's not like I'm undermining him or taking over. We'll talk about it later so we can figure out what was happening. And so, it can go both ways. It hasn't gone the other way, but it can. I've given him permission.
I do like that. I like that a lot. I'm probably going to
that's probably better than what I do. Like I'll just look at him like, then he'll be like, what?
I was going to say this. I was like, we are very overprotective. Like we can yell and scream and say whatever, but as soon as the second parent comes in, we're like, how dare you?
Only I can
notice
yell
it.
at
We
the
get
kids.
so caught up. We get so caught up.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Relating it to real life situations, like what Shanila was saying, relating the way that the child feels to real life situations, and relating it to the long term of what your long term expectations and goals are for your family, and communicating your expectations. That's what I wrote down.
All right. And if you have any ideas on how else to partner with your partner, with your spouse, to make parenting a little bit easier, a little more peaceful, to bring everybody onto the same page, please put them in the comments. And thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on Instagram and interact with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.